familiar with. Yeah, it's taken us about 5 years to get here. DeSci, I think, at the moment is having a defining moment. I think that's probably what brings many of you here. And I'm excited to share with all of you today a foundational pillar of the DeSci ecosystem, which is an IPNFT, and to kind of deep dive deeper into the tooling that enables IPNFTs, how they can be used to fund science in an open and permissionless way, and and kind of dive into the first live use cases that we really have around IPNFTs. So I'm going to share my screen with all of you. And then I'm going to click the present button. I just want to make sure, Platox, can you maybe confirm that you're kind of seeing my full screen? Cool. I'm going to assume that everyone can see my screen. Yeah, I can see it here below. Awesome, cool. So welcome to the first BanklessDeSci conference. I'm going to talk today about decentralized IP and IPNFTs. For everyone, again, my name is Paul Kohlhaas. I'm the CEO and co-founder of an organization called Molecule. Cool, Molecule at a glance. These are kind of stats from early this year. What we're doing at Molecule is really creating collaborative ecosystems where stakeholders in drug development and biotech can work together to expedite the process of bringing novel therapeutics to patients. To date, in the DeSci ecosystem, we've had over 1,300 research projects that have applied from across the world. There's over 6 bio-DAOs that we've actively supported and helped bring to life. Many of your favorite DeSci projects, such as Beta DAO, Hair DAO, Valley DAO, Athena DAO, Psi DAO, Cryo DAO. Our communities count over 20,000 members. There have been over 35 million in total that have been raised into our ecosystem. And collectively, the organizations, the scientific projects that we've helped co-create count over 175 million. Much in thanks to all of you guys, our earliest supporters. So what's our mission at Molecule? I think it's really important always to dive in at a high level before we kind of get into the weeds of intellectual property. Molecule's goal is really to change the way that intellectual property works, specifically in early stage drug development. We believe that biotech and the pharmaceutical system are kind of one of the last big monopolistic and pipeline-like industries, and that are really ripe for change. What personally brought me into the space was that a very close family member of mine was prescribed antidepressants and an ADHD medication when they were quite young, and consecutively really became addicted and reliant on these substances. And so at the age of 16, I really started asking myself, like, hey, is there a more open system that could perhaps better help get the right cures to the right patients? So at Molecule, really focused on making IP transactable in Web3 and enabling sustainability for organizations that want to collaboratively and democratically develop drugs. IP, our problem child. So at Molecule, we really honed down on IP as being the core driver of the pharmaceutical system and of kind of drug development in biotech today. However, IP as an asset class has barely evolved or even been digitized. If IP today, for example, with the US PTO, it really, you receive a box of papers. It's a highly bureaucratic process of filing. It feels like in the early 2000s. Maybe as a little exercise for all of you, I recommend going onto the website of the USPTO and, for example, searching for a patent in a given kind of disease area, and it feels like diving back into the early 2000s. So patents today are highly monopolistic, and because they are monopolistic, they create perverse incentives for collaboration. For example, if I'm an organization that has a patent on a drug, I may disincentivize or kind of like cut out other people that are trying to work to bring similar drugs to market. Or, for example, if let's say you're a researcher at a university, you look at a specific class of molecules and you find one that you're like, oh, wow, this one's super interesting. This could be a potential cure for cancer. Maybe you want to write your master thesis or your PhD thesis on that. You begin looking at it, and then you realize, oh, it's been patented by a large pharmaceutical company. Can't touch that. Patents really disincentivize collaboration, and they disincentivize open science because it means that innovation can only happen within one organization, one company. As I mentioned previously, they're largely analog today in a digital world. They're not programmatic. Like, they're really, really hard to transact. They're really hard to value. They're hard to transfer between organizations, and it's difficult to use them as an incentive. Typically, how patents are used as incentives is by creating an equity vehicle, a company that owns a bunch of patents. But typically, actually, as an investor or as a patient, you only want access to one piece of IP. You don't want access to like a whole portfolio. Yeah. And the last point is that once a patent or a piece of IP is inside of an organization, it's really hard to get it out or to kind of transfer it. So this is known often as the valley of death. It's why so much innovation remains in academia, is because we really lack global standardized licensing frameworks. If you go and work with a university, with their tech transfer office to try and get the IP out of there, it's typically a process that can take anywhere 6 to 12 months. And that's because the negotiation required between licensing parties takes so long. For example, if you want to finance some research at a university for, let's say, $200,000, in many cases the legal costs required to establish these licensing frameworks is just not even worth it. That's how the world works today. And so our goal is really to make this whole process much more efficient and really create an open source operating system for intellectual property and open science. So with that said, we're revolutionizing how intellectual property works in early stage drug development and science. Diving a little bit deeper into how this works from a macroeconomic perspective. So my background is in economics. I originally studied in Switzerland. And so I looked a lot at game theory and incentives for innovation. What you see below is the typical drug development cycle. So drugs go through discovery, preclinical stages, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This process today takes up to 10 years. And we feel that the primary problem is because what I talked about earlier, that you have one organization working on one patent that they own. They've disincentivized anyone else to work on it. Yet diseases are global phenomenon, right? Like cancer, heart diseases affect all humans. Yet we've created a system where one company will own the rights to a potential cure, but then they also have to shoulder all of the costs, all of the risks, and do it by themselves. And so this is the typical, what you see above is the typical kind of uh, innovation cycle that happens inside of an organization. You have idea generation, project definition, concept development, and then at the end, you typically have one or two ideas that can actually go to market. Now, our concept of molecule is, what if we break up these siloed innovation cycles that happen inside of companies, and we break them up and create one global market where these intellectual property assets, these new cures, this phenomenal research and scientific progress can actually prosper. This is an early design from, I think, starts from 2022, although our marketplace today doesn't look that different. It's essentially came out, what if we enabled for IP assets and for science, the same thing that happened for NFTs in the art space, for example. And so this is designed for the molecule marketplace today. You can actually go on discover.molecule.to and find research projects. And so our goal is really to take individual IP assets and turn them into a public marketplace for intellectual property. What is the building block of this marketplace? Well, it's a new Web3 native legal primitive that we've developed, which is called an IPNFT. And for us, an IPNFT is really a building block for DeSci. It's fundamentally programmable, so you can program royalties and ownership, can be digitally programmable. It's transactable between different parties. A process that typically took, as I said earlier, 6 to 12 months, technically now you can do in 5 minutes, just as you transfer another NFT. These IP assets and the science can be sold, traded, licensed, and also fractionalized. Through that, it can become highly liquid. And furthermore, it becomes data rich. And we'll dive into actually what the infrastructure of an IPNFT looks like. So broadly speaking, this is kind of a diagram from the typical drug development process. Typically, as I said earlier, this happens within one company, but using Molecule System now, you can have an IP asset. You can have the IP creator upload the asset. You can have different research groups getting involved, exchanging research data for ownership in the asset. You can have early investors and speculators. Then you can have patient groups getting involved at a later stage. And now all of these actors are collaborating in a modular way and in a decentralized way to bring a potential cure or a potential scientific project to market. So let's dive deeper into the anatomy of an IPNFT. At first, you have a real-world legal contract that, so many of you have probably heard about real-world assets. IPNFTs are not too different than real-world assets, instead that it's not a real estate. And it's actually why we believe IP is a perfect use case, or the biotech IP is a perfect use case in crypto and in Web3, because it's already intangible, right? Often you call intellectual property assets intangibles. Well, they don't exist. They only exist today in legal contracts. So there's a real world legal contract. We work with some of the best IP licensing and biotech licensing firms, both in the US and in the EU. You have identities, physical addresses, for example, of the licensing parties, wallet addresses, a transaction hash of the signed transaction, the IP terms, and the details. This legal contract is then actually encrypted. It's encrypted combined with a smart contract that lives on Ethereum. The metadata JSON is then stored on Arweave, and the encrypted IP, patent, and data, so all of the secret sauce that relates to the IP, is stored on Lit protocol, which runs on Filecoin. I'll stop here. You can find a lot more about this architecture, about our documentation, if you go on molecule.xyz. Most of our architecture is open source, so please feel free to give us feedback, fiddle around with it, be critical. I'll briefly run through the process of how minting an IPNFT works. So you have a researcher who wants to do a research project and is willing to fund it by selling their future IP that may originate from it. You then, on the other side, you have an individual, an organization, or a DAO that wants to own IP that arises from this research project and wants to fund it. You then typically have a negotiation period, an agreement, and contract signing. This is an application layer that we're providing through Molecule. Then, as I said previously, the metadata is encrypted. You define access conditions. So, for example, I can now say, let's say Alice is the researcher, Bob is the sponsor of the research, or Bob DAO. And Bob DAO now defines, once they've sponsored it, who gets access to the underlying IP so that it can be developed in an open and in a collaborative way. For example, you might have different working group members in the DAO that have verified their wallet. And now those verified wallet addresses can be added as viewers of the IP or even as editors. All of this is then encapsulated in ERC 721 or in an ERC 1155. What does this look like in practice? So this is not theory. We funded a whole bunch of these IPNFTs already. Vita DAO, as many of you may know, is one of the primary kind of creators of IPNFTs today. One of the most exciting projects that we've come across, for example, is a project on autophagy activator drug discovery from Newcastle University. This project was funded on December 23rd, 2021. So almost 2 years ago, hey, DeSci didn't just appear yesterday. This was funded almost 2 years ago for $285,000. And we're going to see throughout this presentation how the project actually evolved over that time frame. So VDAO was funded over $5 million in research to date. There's a couple of examples here. Another exciting one is with the Scheibe Nutzen Lab at the University of Copenhagen. There's an exciting project underway with Evander Fang's lab at the University of Oslo. Typically, these funding amounts tend to be between $100,000, $250,000, maybe $500,000. And they're also milestone based, meaning that based on the project and the researcher hitting certain milestones, the DAO that funds it releases more funding over time. If the research is not successful, then the DAO can kind of terminate the agreement because why throw more money at a project that's not working, right? So what now happens with these IPNFTs, right? What can I do with this? And fundamentally, where we see this going is really in the creation of a new asset class that makes translational research fundable and governable by patients, researchers, entrepreneurs, and communities. So IPNFTs can now mint IPTs. And I'm going to make this less confusing in a second. But what this really does is it makes digital IP transactions possible. We now can create liquid market for IPTs. So whereas an IP NFT is an ERC 721 or an ERC 1155, predominant ERC 1155s today, IPTs are ERC 20s. And this now enables the tokenization of IP as an incentive layer and as a governance layer for decentralized communities. So an IPNFT today typically is a digital on-chain authentication of IP rights that are held by a research and development sponsor. So an IPNFT is minted. It contains a patent or a license or a research agreement. This is attached to a smart contract. These things today are typically held by DAOs. So the DAO forms almost like an incubator now around this IP. And when the DAO feels the time is right, it can now begin tokenizing the IP to kind of open it up. IPTs can be held by individuals. And intellectual IPT stands for intellectual property token. And they are fungible governance tokens that are minted using IPNFTs to now distribute IP rights to a much broader set of stakeholders. IPTs now transform research outcomes into composable digital assets. And we think this is really exciting because this now enables price discovery for IP. It enables much more liquid project-based incentives. For example, imagine there's a patient group that could be really relevant for the development of a specific IP asset, or perhaps participate even in a decentralized clinical trial. You could now distribute ownership in that particular IP asset to that patient group for contributing work or contributing data. Likewise, you can do this for scientists. And we believe this fundamentally might revolutionize how drugs are being developed and how intellectual property is being developed. The typical life cycle of an IPT looks kind of like this. A researcher defines a translational research project and identifies the intellectual property that will be tokenized. You mint the IPNFT. I've gone through that. You then can create an IPT. And kind of whoever owns the IPNFT can decide, cool, I'm gonna create an IPT. And then you ideally have a group of stakeholders that now buy into the IPT. Molecules infrastructure provides this. Typically, for example, this is done through an auction. And then IPTs can be distributed to the university or to the researcher. What can you now do with this? So now you really have a chance to engage the community. IPT holders have a say in governance of the IP, and they can participate in key decision makings related to the research. They can also raise further funding. So IPTs can now be issued and sold to raise additional funding for the project. At any point, IPT holders can vote to license the IP to a startup or to, for example, raise money via an equity financing if they wanted to create a startup around this. You can really think of this like a mini DAO that has now emerged around one particular project. Of course, doing this might only make sense once you have sufficient positive data around a project. And that's how most of the DAOs that are in our space are kind of going about this. So as I said, maybe to summarize, IPTs can be exchanged for work, for funding, or for contributions around a particular research project. IPTs enable open source collaboration without losing the commercial viability around the project. So this is something typical, like why can't you just use GitHub for drug development and kind of develop medicines out in the open? The problem is with doing that, you forever invalidate the IP. You'll never have a chance to potentially file patents around the project. And while I personally hate patents and I hate the patent system, unfortunately, in today's world, it is a necessary evil in order to actually fund the high costs of clinical trials later on. And so IPTs for us, while they don't fully represent a fully open intellectual property system yet, or like full open science, they're actually what we feel is an amazing middle ground that can really spur innovation today. One of the best examples of IPNFTs and IPTs today is VitaFast. VitaFast was the first IPT launched by VitaDAO. And it was a really wild success. So in June of this year, over 200 participants participated in the first kind of auction. On the top right, you can kind of see the VitaFast crowd sale that took place via the Molecule platform. There was a funding goal. The funding goal was very humble. It was $35,000. The project didn't need that much more. It wanted to fundraise for one additional experiment. And there was still funding available. And in total, the project was 1,700% oversubscribed. It ended up raising this 35K. The way that this worked is, as a VitaDAO token holder, you have the right to participate in these IP offerings. So the more Vita tokens you hold, the more you have right to fund one of these IPTs and participate in one of these auctions. The current market cap today is 15.3 million. So the price since that auction of VitaFast has increased almost exponentially. What's really exciting, though, is that at the same time, over 5% of the IPTs were also redistributed back to the university, even though VitaDAO had no obligation to. It essentially said, hey, it's really important to give something back to the university. Today, what the university has gotten back is over 800,000 in equivalent value in IP ownership in this project. In the VitaFast community, we love using fast and furious memes. I've taken two charts here just because I always think it's a little bit interesting to look at what is actually happening on chain now in terms of price discovery. So there was a period of initial price discovery here in early June where the project shot up, I think, to about a 2 million valuation from 350K and then kind of stabilized at around 1.4 million. And then over the consecutive month, more and more data was released about this project. And maybe just a reminder, so this is a researcher, Viktor Kowalczyk, you can see him at the bottom right here, that is working on autophagy activators. And autophagy activators are essentially drugs that mimic the fasting process in the human body. And what fasting does is that it promotes longevity. So this could really be a prime candidate that could substantially lengthen our lifespan by inducing the same positive benefits that fasting introduces, but without obviously having to fast. So prompting our cells to do a similar thing. Around September, October, very transparently in the community, it was released that 4 of the drug candidates that Viktor Kowalczyk was investigating had very positive data, and subsequently the market responded. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on Dune. There's a Dune dashboard, there's a deck screener, or you can check out the IPNFT. I'm sure I can share the links later on, but you can also very easily just Google VitaFast or go on VitaDAO and VitaFast. Where is all of this going? So I'm going to give a very brief closing ecosystem outlook. So today at Molecule, we have over 1,200 projects that have come in. And of those, around 13 IPNFTs have been minted. And as you see, 1 IPT has been minted. Our next really, and where's all of this going? So the goal is really to discover scientific projects that work, right? And the goal is really to translate them to patients and to be able to commercialize them so that ultimately one day they can be accessed in a pharmacy or prescribed by a doctor. The way that we're empowering this Molecule is initially in January, you can expect the launch of a new seed marketplace where you can discover this bulk of projects in a much more open way. And increasingly, we're then building an IP coordination hub and specialized exchanges where these IPTs can be exchanged and traded. And all of the BioDAOs are kind of operating in this flurry of projects. As we've seen, some of them are focused on hair loss, some of them are focused on synthetic biology, some of them are focused on longevity and aging. We have others focused on psychedelic research. And we really hope to empower this new era of science and this new flurry of decentralization of projects. Ultimately, always with the goal to bring the science much faster and much more cost efficiently to patients. And the power of DeSci, in my view, is that you can all be a part of that. I think that's really amazing. What's actually missing in this diagram is the scientist here. So one of our core goals in Molecule is really reuniting the scientists and the patients, because instead of only getting involved here, the patient can now get involved here. In the seed stage or in the IPNFT stage, the patient can get involved in a DAO, or she can directly, if she wants to contribute data to an IPT or fund an IPT. We're building towards a world where scientists, instead of spending 80% of their time applying for funding, they're spending 80% of their time doing science and only 20% of time applying for funding. That's a statistic that we often heard. Scientists have to spend so much time applying for funding, and it's a shame. They should be doing the science. We are working towards a world where patient and researcher communities govern cures and access to medications. We're working towards a world where scientists are fairly paid and incentivized for their work. Thank you. I've got a couple of calls to action here. You can get involved in the molecule ecosystem today. Just join our Discord. You can join it down. Most of these communities that I've mentioned today all have open Discords. You can get involved. If you're a scientist, please get in touch, apply to get funded. Victor Kowalczyk's project, for example, was funded within 3 weeks. It took us 3 weeks to get the IP out licensed out of the university, funds transferred. 3 weeks. You can fund a DAO or an IPT, support these communities, obtain governance on chain, help make a difference. And we're also actively hiring. If you're a developer, if you're a scientist, if you're a biotech entrepreneur, please get in touch. Yeah, I will stop there because I hope that I'm right on time. Is there time for questions? I'm not sure what the protocol is. I can turn my screen back on. I just thought my presentation was over. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, okay, I'm being told to just tell a story until someone from the Bankless team is here to put the next speaker on. Let me actually ping Elijah quickly. Yeah, you can ask questions and I can repeat the questions to the audience. So also with us, we have Rod Mamin, who is the founder of Lunco. a decentralized space metaverse engineering and infrastructure system. Rod, shoot away your question, and I'm going to repeat it to the audience. Yeah, 100%. So the IPNFT backend is really a permissionless. Maybe to repeat Rod's question, how could the IPNFT infrastructure that Molecule has developed be utilized across other use cases or for other communities? Rod, is that correct? Cool. So yeah, so something that I've learned as an entrepreneur is that it's really important to focus on your niche. So we've really designed Molecule to work around initially, and for IPNFTs to work around sponsored research agreements, specifically in biotech and in medical research. And that's probably one of the most difficult forms of IP and IP class. And but fundamentally, the system that we've developed can be used for any type of IP, and or it could be used for engineering. It could be used for space. I personally have a vision that, for example, this could also be used for AI algorithms to self bootstrap them into existence by the IP being actually housed by the algo or the whole LLM being housed, the model being housed in an IPNFT. Um, this vast oversimplification, but to answer your question, Rod, the framework can be used by kind of any type of community. Technically, we already have communities out of the climate tech space that are actively looking into using this. There's an organization called ValleyDAO that is focused on synthetic biology and biomanufacturing. They recently minted an IPNFT that is focused on biolipids from algae, actually. Biolipids are like new types of oils. And so we're already moving out of the realm of typical medicine and biotech into the realm of bioengineering and space engineering, bioengineering. Like ultimately for us, it's all IP and it's all data. And what we're fundamentally passionate about is really enabling collaboration between communities and scientists.
of enter there, Web3 native. Oh, I'm on. See, now you can see me, guys. Or I don't know. I've seen that something happened. Uh, yeah, the question. Marketing support, marketing. Yeah, amazing, amazing, guys. Cool, cool. Now at least, cool. Yeah. But I need some help, so I need to share. I'm trying to enter from my computer, but I need an email to be added. If I enter this one email, it just has to be from a different account. So could you help with that? Um, yeah. So I mean, I have a link, but I can enter only from my account. Yeah, and also Paul, it's cool. It's cool to jump on stage. But maybe we could jump on a call, maybe on short 15 minutes call, and then yeah. What is the best way to reach you? Okay, okay. So yeah, cool. But I think yeah. So I'll DM you tomorrow. I'm in Thailand, so it's almost like it's 11:30. So tomorrow I'll drop you a message. It was really cool, and I'm sorry that I think I've messed with the time. So sorry if you had to wait for me. I didn't realize that, so didn't want you to make me sorry. Yeah. So now I'm happy. Oh, okay. I can see the link. So let me. I think I cannot copy it, guys. It's not fun. I cannot copy the message text. Oh, yeah, I've managed that. So and I have to send it. Yeah, I already kind of started to present Lunka, and I think it would be cool to have it not a regular presentation. So right after Gitcoin. Lunka was released for browser versions. Actually, you can get it at alpha.lunka.space. I hope in a second I will finally be able to share my screen, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience that I have to devices. However, that's a trade-off. I'm using Linux and I have some issues with the drivers on Linux. So I have to use my phone because my microphone is not working on Linux. Um, okay, okay, guys. So just one more second, and I'll be here. Yeah, so I'm a space systems engineer, and on December 24th, Peregrine Lander by Astrobotic would be launched to the moon, and I have a device that I was in charge of. And with that experience, I actually started Lunka, and I hope that I will share that in a second. For today's session, I actually want to show how. Oh, yeah, finally I can. You will be able to see my screen in a second. So for today's session, I actually want to show how the development is happening, why it's happening in that manner. I'm using Linux. It has its own advantages and disadvantages, but yeah, basically, I'm systems engineer, and frankly speaking, systems engineering is super boring activity. Most of the time, you have to deal with tons of documentation. You have to deal with the interfaces, and it's boring. To address that issue, I was thinking of making an open source requirements management tool for people who come from engineering. Maybe you've heard about IBM Doors. It's kind of an open source alternative. However, you know, for most of the people in the world, requirements management sounds really boring. Unless you speak to space engineers. So there is a super easy way to check if a person is a space engineer, just start discussing requirements management. And if a person is passionate, then you got it. It's a space engineer. But it's really hard to sell it. So instead, I decided why not to make the next step, because requirements management, that's kind of a baseline. However, in reality, we want to have models. We want to have actionable models that could be run. So instead of tons of documentations, like for example by NASA, you can encode those documentation in rules and automate the process. And on top of that, you can hide all the complexity, all the underlying complexity by making just a nice and useful interface, nice UX. So I hope you will be able to see that in a second. In the meantime, okay, it's almost there. So, Lunka is a 3D world. It's a metaverse. I don't know how what is the best way to describe it. But yeah, it's built on Godot engine. It's almost loaded, and you will see that in a second. Now it works. Now it works. Just give me a second. It works on any platform, on iOS, on macOS, on Linux. You can download it right now from local GitHub. It's really easy to find it. Let me get back. Um, yeah, at its core, it's really easy to design everything. With Lunko, it's built on top of Godot, and Godot is kind of a triple A, but fully open source game engine, meaning that you will always own everything that you have created. Uh, Frankly speaking, my display looks weird. However, the main thing is that right now, if you have any 3D models, you already can embed and use Lunker infrastructure to showcase your models to your community. So here, just let me open another scene. So now there is only one scene. Uh, I'll So I'll unfortunately turn off the video because I want to show you. So right now it looks like a game, which is really confusing people. However, if you open any robotic simulator like Gazebo, Bbots, and tons of other, including I forgot how it's called from NVIDIA, you will see almost exactly the same. That's just because it's a simulation, and the goal of Lunka is to provide a system level simulation, meaning it will get all the different systems into one and allow you to use different models. Lunk has been in the development for a year, and months ago, the first decent release was made, so you can see it right now. It's pretty basic, but it works over the internet, so you can actually explore things together with your friends. There are several. different entities that you can control, like a robot, which represents you, the player, like a rocket. Soon there'll be added other things. And you can build on top of that. So if you have something in 3D, that's just uh, 3D work is a basic thing. However, soon there'll be tools that help you to create diagrams, to create uh, all of the needed tools for systems engineering and space. It's called model-based systems engineering. Meaning that basically you can create the model of the whole system. It's kind of easy, but you have to have a lot of connections. And you can actually visualize it and run it using, like native, have access to native 3D visualization. So in some sense, I perceive Godot as the uh, 3D operational system, and Lunka is a framework built on top of that operation system, focused on designing metaverse, on collaborative engineering, and tools like that. The first release that is here. You can download it. Also, not so long time ago, like a week, we finally had a decent browser version. However, right now it works only on Linux and Windows. That's a bug in the macOS, and you can find that version at alpha .lunca.space. And by the way, Lunca has issued profile NFTs, um, which will be used in the metaverse. Um, In terms of roadmap, you can go to GitHub. All the development is done in an open manner, so you can go to GitHub. You can contribute. You can help to prioritize um, features. And if you know anyone who is working on a metaverse, please let me know. I'm happy to collaborate and happy to help them to actually create their own 3D world in the web using Lunko. Uh, in around right now, it's been under heavy development, and a lot of things in terms of structuring the project are happening because it's fully open source MIT license project, meaning everyone can just fork it and start even sell it under or your own brain, which has a lot of implications and limitations in terms of IP. Basically everything that you have is given for free, which kind of complicates how things works, but that's open source, and your support would be much appreciated on Gitcoin, on Give Us rounds. So now you can see on the screen Lunko working in a browser. It's fully open source, so you can go and download it. And in 3 to 6 months, it will have decent collaboration tools like, mirror-like tools, diagrams, and integration with CAD viewers. Uh, focused on different sorts of engineering. Yes, it's highly inspired by lunar exploration, by space engineering. However, one of the reasons why I am a part of why I became a space. Oh man, Plato X, I can see a comment. That's the. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to go into details later after the presentation. So yeah, Lunka is here. It works. It has integration with Web3 right now. I've launched it in a browser. Oops. Okay, I went back. Lunka is here. It's working in around from 3 to 6 months. It will become much more mature because right now it's a core, and browser version is not supporting networking yet. I think it will come in a couple of weeks, meaning that you'll actually will be able to open browser, connect your MetaMask wallet, and then start exploring the world together with your friend. To build the world right now, you have to use Godot, but again, it's super easy, it's free, it's fully open source. It has great and simple UX. So yeah, that's pretty what Lunko is. The core is here, and as Peter Thiel said, like the idea between 0 and 1. Lunka not so long time ago moved to stage 1 when you can download it. I'm really happy, and yeah, happy to get in touch, happy to continue developing the project, and happy to build actually and to engineer stuff together. So that's pretty all I wanted to that I wanted to share right now. I'm really sorry that link is loading really slow right now, but that's actually because the server is in the US, and I'm in Thailand, so we are pretty far away. Oh, it's here. It's here. So I will turn off the camera for a second. So now it works in browsers. You have like rockets, etc., etc., etc. But that's just the beginning. Soon it will be more mature, and I hope that we will get rid of Notion. I really love and hate that tool. I love how productive it is, but I hate how proprietary it is. And it's also very, very limited. So that's all my presentation. Hey, Manuel, actually, previous poll from Molecule, it looks like interested in this space. So it's really cool to promote and push this space on all the possible channels. I think I'd like to end my presentation at this point in time, and happy to ask questions and continue conversation on Telegram. It's super easy to find me. I'm on active on most DSpace like DSpace, Gitcoin, Bankless, DeSci, sorry, Gitcoin, DeSci, Bankless, DeSci the groups. So yeah, happy to get in touch with everyone. That's it from my side. Yeah, happy to get in touch tomorrow. So if no questions, oh, one thing that could be interesting for a lot of people, soon also there'll be a tool for token engineering. Thanks to token engineering community who accepted Lunko to their round on Gitcoin. That was a long term, it was in plans for a long time, and now they supported the initiative. So soon finally there'll be a tokenomics. I really need that tool and everyone. Yeah, and if it's yeah, no, go ahead. No, go ahead. I think yeah, and I think we had a conversation today on Twitter. Yeah, about metaverse. Like you mentioned, what metaverse? So that's cool, actually. That's amazing because your project caught my attention. But I had no time to go into details. It's cool. It's cool. So definitely you have interesting project. Happy that we are in touch right now, and happy to add support in terms of. It could be a bit hard. I mean, right now, that planetary level rendering system, it's in production, but it's a really complicated code. I mean, I do not want to go into details. But soon it will be there. Soon the integration with this project called Voyager, they already have created a full-scale solar system that's in plans maybe a month or so, and they already have a kind of nice system that allows you to render. at a different scales, and that could be interesting for you. But yeah, sorry. Feel free to continue your presentation. I'm happy to continue in a more private way to not steal people's money. Sorry, time. Oh, yep. Also, I want to mention is that right now all the models, everything that is used in Lunke, it's simple. However, when we talk about engineering, for example, when you use tools like GMAT, General Mission Analysis Toolkit by NASA. That's super cool, that's very important software. For example, when you plan a mission, you use at different stages of the mission, you use different models. So, for example, if you want to launch a satellite, when it's close to Earth, you use one computational model. When it's far away from Earth, on, for example, cislunar transition, you use a different model. When it's close to the moon, you use a different model. That's how engineering works, and that's how Lunka soon will work. The core is designed to make integration with such models super easy. But yeah, that I'm not sure if it'll be useful for you and your project. Oh, you have what software are you using? I'm trying to figure out how to. Oh. Okay, because I can make it full screen right now. I try to figure out. That's Epsilon. It's really nice graph. Yeah, I'm familiar with the forecasting method. Are you how familiar you are with the math, and do you know, have you heard about uh, Ramsey theorem? Ramsey. Yeah, when you know a complex structure emerge from chaos, when you have I don't. That's I mean that's the response why it looks like a synapses. That's of course not full response, but that's a partial response. I mean, it's kind of normal when you have complex structures. It could also they think that with the synapses, that's how we visualize them. So real synapse, it's a really weird thing. if you think what in reality, in terms of like as a cell. So it looks similar because it looks similar to the way how we visualize synapses. So that's kind of the way how human perceives. Sorry, it's complicated. Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge fan. I'm really interested in complex structures. I have my background. So, for example, I'm really amazed by Conway's Game of Life. It's super simple, but it's Turing full. Sorry, it's Turing complete, meaning that actually even such a system can make everything that we can imagine of. Yep. But you caught my attention. Also, have you heard of a thing that is called B?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about it's all about the friends we make, right? Okay, it seems I'm online now. Finally, hey everyone who's watching. We've been hanging here waiting for the session change, and it's now on. I'm Platox, Atox. There's a lot of names, but wait, wait. Okay, I was hearing myself. So, I want to do a very unconference thing, and first let me turn off the lofi hip hop. So I wanted to have a very unconference talk today, and actually not talk too much about the actual subject of the talk, which is the nerd brain. I want to talk to the nerd brain actually and show you a little bit how it works. First, let's introduce you guys. This is our current data structure that we created at DeCi.World, and we are currently working really hard on finding ways on how to turn this into sort of a network of knowledge. And the most important thing for today is that this structure here is, in our mind, a hyperstructure. And that's actually what we're going to talk today about. And then I actually went ahead and asked ChatGPT, or, well, the brain, how what it thinks about hyperstructures, because we've talked a lot. So I'm just going to read back the response to you. Based on my notes, a hyperstructure is defined as a crypto protocol that can run for free and forever without maintenance, interruption, or intermediaries. The main characteristic of a hyperstructure is that it's unstoppable, free, valuable, expansive, permissionless, positive sum, and credibly neutral. These protocols run on blockchains and are designed to be public goods that create a positive sum ecosystem for any participants. Um, then the AI does an interesting thing, which is saying that it didn't find any examples of naturally occurring hyperstructures explicitly, but it came up with its own examples. It says, uh, as the concept of hyperstructures is specifically tied to the realm of blockchain and crypto protocols, which are human-made constructs, hyperstructures, as outlined in your notes, are a new type of infrastructure enabled by technology of blockchains and do not have direct natural world equivalents. They are innovative frameworks that operate on principles of openness, expansion, and what you said, and are intended to revolutionize various societal systems, including economic models and scientific methodologies, which is why it's relevant today. If you're looking for examples for systems in the natural world that share some characteristics with hyperstructures, such as being self-sustaining, expansive, and beneficial for all participants, you might consider ecosystems like coral reefs or rainforests. These are not hyperstructures in the broad sense of the word, but they are complex, self-regulating systems that support a diverse range of life forms and can be thought of as positive sum environments where the success of the individual species contributes to the health of the whole system. So this is what I want to talk about today, and like I think ChatGPT did a really good example, and I had one more thing. Uh, is dancing a hyper? Oh, this is a dance party hyperstructure. Now, what I want to convey in my talk, my time, is to sort of try to explain how you, huh, how to uh, make a hyperstructure, and more importantly, the fact that you cannot really make a hyperstructure, but you have to summon a hyperstructure. And I'll get to it in a minute. What does the AI think about my question? Dance party is not a hyperstructure in the same sense that I'm talking about, but um, I'm going to disagree with the AI here. And this is the thing about live queries to the AI. Sometimes it might go against you, but still, I disagree because I can show you an example of how you can use you can use dance or dance party specifically as a hyperstructure. Now let's go look at that. How to summon a hyperstructure with a dance party. Now, ChatGPT may be like, or the brain can think whatever it can think, but it has never gone to a dance party, and it probably has never seen this video. So the thing about this I'm showing right here on screen is a video that like everyone who has ever worked with me for any number of time has seen, because I sort of like show it all the time. And the thing is all about this dude here. This guy here is a crazy dancing guy. And he spent like before this video, he spent like another 3 minutes just dancing until 30 seconds in, this guy shows up. Now, there's two important things about these two people. This guy's just dancing. He's just dancing. He spends the whole video just dancing. And when he joins, he starts calling other people, but this guy just keeps dancing, right? Now suddenly there's three of them, and these took around 30 seconds to get the third guy here. This guy is still dancing, focused on the goal, but this guy is inviting people in. Now, when people start looking at this, you have so many eyes going on here now that within a minute, this is the situation here. You have a dance party. Now, this is what I say when you have a hyperstructure, because I think this is open. This is unstoppable. This is positive sum, and this can go on forever as long as there's more people, right? That's the difference in blockchain stuff, and we can go into that later. But the main thing that I want to address in the rest of the conference is talking about how does this happen? How can we make a hyperstructure, and how can we design around the fact that we can't, right? So because the important thing about that is that a lot of the value that we can generate as a community comes from the existence of the hyperstructure, that it's the one thing that we must all sort of protect, which in the case of DeSci is the production of knowledge. And with that shared goal, we can all design things around the production of such knowledge. So there's two options in things, and like there's what I call the Web 2 way, and there's the Web 3 way. Now let's look at what most people would think is, if you want to make a dance party, you have here a bunch of people, but the door is closed, and there's a place to dance, but no one seems to be dancing. Now, as the guy who's making the party, you have two options, which is say, well, dance now, everybody dance, you must dance, you have to dance. Be explicit and try to make this thing happen, but that is never going to work. That's just not how dance parties work. It never creates a good dance party. All he has to do really is just open the door and let people in, because the hyperstructure really happens when you have these individual units, which is like your dancers, being able to do their own thing together. And that's what provides the structure that we're looking for to create a dance party for knowledge. Now, how does this look in practice, in what we're trying to build? And I hope I have something useful here. No, I don't have. But what we're trying to build is a not specifically something that tells you how to dance, but just having a system where it's easy to create like dance moves, so to speak. And to do that, we've created the brain, which is our dance party for ideas. Right now, this is a smaller one, which you can see, and let's go back to our main one that you can see. No, this is different. I have so many brains right now. But anyways, I'm just gonna wrap it up and saying that if you want to design the future of coordination, you have to think in terms of hyperstructures. And it's important to understand that once a hyperstructure exists, the the goal is to add value to it rather than try to create it again, because that's what is going to drive the impact and therefore the value that it generates over time. Now, if you guys want to learn how to do this with knowledge, we're currently actively working on creating a protocol for the creation of proofs of knowledge with DeSci.World. And we have released some information that I can share with you at any point. But we're currently looking for people to first join in our vision of creating this hyperstructure of knowledge. And each of us providing a piece of what will become the supply chain for knowledge production. Therefore, bringing back the means of producing value to anyone who has a thought, which is everyone in the world. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you. Yeah. Wait.
Now I'm on stage. Okay, so I guess my session starts now. Yeah, thanks first of all for joining in. I don't know if this is here the camera, how it works. Yeah, it is. Great. So I'm Valerio, the founder of Turtle. Ah,
Hi. No worries at all. Oh, I'm good. All right. Sorry, I'm just he is Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my coworker your email. All right. Let me share my screen. I'm just gonna share my entire screen. That is not supported. Can we make my screen the main viewing point? Is it possible to get it up there? There. All right. Infinite. Yay. Okay. So I'm gonna get this set up a little bit. There we go. Hi, this is me. I am in the midst of just trying to get a cost on here as well, but I'm not sure if that's working, so we're just gonna have to go ahead with this. So, today I'm gonna very, very briefly go through this, but really like what I want to do with everyone is a session on using the lab exchange. So I'll get to actually what that is. And hopefully you guys will all be able to participate if you're interested. So it's kind of try to make this a bit more interactive. I think I can get this done earlier than 40 minutes. So hopefully that helps with getting things a little bit more on track. So I will try to do that. Briefly, what is LabDAO? So at LabDAO, we provide and use open tools and infrastructure for computational life science research. It's extremely broad, and that's intentionally broad. We are figuring out how a scientist could work remotely from anywhere, collaborate with anyone from anywhere, and work in a decentralized manner. In the future, that looks like going from ideation to completion in terms of an experiment. But to start off, we have to start somewhere, and we started by focusing on computational biology tooling, which, if you're not familiar, that is pretty much all online, or sorry, on your computer. So there's less wet lab, which is things where, you know, you're actually doing the things in the lab, and more computational sides of it. It's pretty self-explanatory. So this allows us to work explicitly with tooling. So that would be, for example, a tool which takes a protein, does something to it, and gives you an information, something on the other side. So think of this as like an application or something, if that's, you know, that's a very reductionist way of thinking of it, but it's something that allows you to do something to biological data and get some information from it. And if you aren't familiar with computational biology, I definitely encourage you to do some research on it, because that's a very interesting area right now, and there have been some really cool advances with AI lately, which we can touch on actually as well if people are interested. Big questions normally is like, how is this DeSci? So pretty broadly, we are using IPFS for storage. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. We're using IPFS for storage. We're using, so that's interplanetary file storage. So it's pinning it, distributed storage. Again, if you're not familiar with that, definitely encourage you to look into it, but I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm not going to go super deep into that. Backlog is a really cool project that actually allows people to have their pin data on IPFS and actually do the compute where the data is stored. That's really helpful for scientists, for example, who have massive data sets that don't want to be downloading them every time they have to do compute. So it really helps streamline and make everything faster. So that's also like a Web3 tooling. And then in the future, we're going into like permissions, ownerships, everything that is generated on the lab exchange, which is where we allow computational biologists, or we enable computational biologists to run their tooling. Everything will produce an NFT. It all has these content addressable identification. So it's really traceable, really great for proof of ownership or who worked on what. There's, I don't know if anyone was at Paul's talk earlier, but there's really cool IP implications there as well. So there's a lot of really exciting ideas that are coming out of this. So today I'm going to talk about the lab exchange. So this is up until recently, this was a command line interface. So, you know, a lot of computational biology is run just on the command line. You know, you're writing your code, etc. But we have recently moved on to building a very, very MVP front end. So really exciting. You guys are going to be some of the first people to ever try this out. Maybe something will go wrong. We'll see. But we want to be able to show you guys a little bit of what we've been working on. So with that, I'm going to leave this up. Wait, just a second. I'm sharing my screen still, right? Any comments? Is this working? Yeah. Can I get a yes from anyone here to let me know that everything's, you can hear me at least? All right, I'm gonna have to trust that you can hear me. Amazing, thank you. Okay. I know there have been some technical difficulties, so I just want to confirm that. All right, so I am going to get, actually, I'm going to ask the moderator if you can assign Akash to this stage, because he's having an issue. He's not assigned to a stage yet. So if it's possible to get him in here. I don't know. I'm sorry. This is probably really bad for everyone. Let's go back to this. So I don't know if it's easier. I'm going to share this link in the chat for this. Oh, I can't. That's a search function. Private chats. Okay, I can't do that. I'm going to have to ask everyone to type this in. So here we go. It's not that long. You can type it. I'm not sure what the best way for me to share this is. I can share it in the YouTube comments. Okay, I think. There we go. Cool. And damn, that's very confusing. All right, I'll give everyone a minute to open this up. Let me check if is there any progress in getting a caution? No worries. Just gonna DM the moderator. Sorry about that. All right. Can you assign him to a stage? Okay, let's see if this works. All right, while we wait, I will also open up. Cool when you can link things like that, but that was the wrong one. prod.labdao.xyz. All right, let's go. So I'll log out. Everyone should be seeing this screen. We are using a Akash is here. Hey, this is Akash. I don't think everyone can see him, so I'm just gonna share my infinite screen just to say hi, but he can join in the commentary. Can someone in the YouTube tell me, Akash, can you say something? Can someone on the YouTube tell me if you can hear Akash, please? Okay, well, we'll see. Potentially. I think it's there's a little bit of lag on the YouTube, so we'll find that out in a minute. Okay, so we are on app.prod.labdao.xyz for anyone that hasn't gotten the link yet. And we're going to log in. So we are using Privy. I think, Akash, if you want to say anything about that for login. This is a cool Web3 feature here. Okay, great. No info on whether or not they can hear you on the YouTube, but we're just going to assume that they can and move on. So if anyone is following along, I'm not sure if you guys are or not, but I'm going to get you to click on tasks. And today we're going to be doing some protein design. So if you click on this, we have the GitHub for this tool and the paper for this tool here. I'm not one to speak to the complexities here, but you can do a ton of research on your own if you'd like about how this tool is working. But it is using R diffusion, which I think some of you may have heard about if you're following like the AI biospace. And essentially, like, we are doing some protein design. So Akash also made a really great analogy yesterday about how this works. If you want to share that.
Success of any therapeutic R&D, being able to generate novel binders, novel proteins, have some validation prior to going into the wet lab and eventually, animal studies, clinical trials. This almost de novo approach is absolutely critical for, I guess, the future of developing medicine. And, I think it sort of it plays really well with the open nature of Web3 and DeSci as a whole. And so we're trying to make these tools available to as many researchers as possible.
Awesome. So with that, again, I know I'm just being vague and saying you guys should research this, but I do really encourage you to look into this because it's a very cool space and there's so much information to learn. Even as someone who doesn't have too much biology background, you can just get an idea, or if you are like a computational person, you can get an idea of like how exciting and innovative this space is becoming. So with that, I'm going to encourage everyone to navigate to this page. So again, if you weren't here before, you click on tasks, protein design, and you'll be brought here. So the name of the experiment, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine Bankless Unconference test. But yeah, name it as you will. We're going to leave the model as is. You can tell that we have a lot of models right now, but these are just like slight variations of the same ones. Again, this is a very you guys are some of the first ones to try out this tool. So there's a lot of changes that we're going to be implementing, but the number one thing that we need to change or add right now is a protein. So PDC-UPAR1 is the protein that we're going to be using. So that is already added. So it's already pinned to IPFS. It's in this space. This is all publicly available. For example, like this tool, if you wanted to add a tool to the Lab Exchange right now, you would be able to. You write a manifest for it, and you can see, like, for example, this is a tool manifest for this one. It's just like in a JSON format. Here we go. This is what this tool looks like. It's in the right format and it's in a container. So it was able to be added to the Lab Exchange. And now it's here and it's like automatically usable by anyone. These proteins, for example, the protein that we're using today was already added by someone, but conceptually we could be using a protein that was generated by someone doing an experiment, or Akash could add a protein. I mean, this is exactly what we're doing. Akash added a protein and it's on the Lab Exchange now. So I'm able to use this protein in any experiment that I want. So
and
I'm going...
quickly
Oh,
add
go
to
ahead.
that, Lily. One of the one of the really powerful advantages that Web3 and decentralized tech such as IPFS enables is it enables like natural default collaboration. So if you think about like traditional academic systems or even traditional companies, it's not so easy to share your results and share your data. By leveraging content addressed data, which exists and is fetchable by anyone that has an internet connection, you really create this almost like biological soup where, you know, if I design a protein, Lily or anybody in the audience can run small molecule docking experiments on it, or even mutate it to try to create a different flavor of that protein. And if you just like expand this, and a lot of people are building on this type of system, you really get an absolute explosion in the space of innovation that is possible. And I think this is, I think this is probably going to be the future of how people do this early stages of R&D. Yeah, content
Totally.
addressing is really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours about content addressing too. So if anyone is interested in that stuff, definitely hit us up as well. Because I agree, I think it's one of like the coolest things that we have going right now. But yeah, so if you can click on here, search PDC underscore UPAR underscore 1. So that's the protein that we're going to be using today. Okay. The target protein to design against. We're going to keep this as A. So this is the target chain that we're going to design against. Keep this as 1. This is the start residue of the target protein. I would love to go into what these mean, but it would take probably a couple of classes. So for now, I'll just tell you these are numbers that you can modify. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Hugging Face, but if you've ever used or like Replicate, like these tooling where you can do some AI simulation, and there are sort of boundaries that you can set. Similar energy here. It's not exactly a one-to-one, but you can conceptualize it similarly. So for the end residue today, I think we're going with 200. So input 200 here. Hotspot, we're just going to leave that as is. It's an optional field. And then, so now we're talking about the protein binder that we're designing. So this is like the AI design protein binder. We're going to go with 40 on this. And then a cool feature that we have is any of these, if I wanted to add another one, I could. And then we have a combinatoric sort of experimental run. So you have multiple experiments that are running simultaneously. So all of these things are happening with this. And then we try it against this, which is a different number. Let's say like 3 or something. And then I could add another one. And I could add another one. And I could add another one. And as you can see, like the number of experimental runs goes up and up and up. So we have a number of different experiments that we can run. For now, I'm just going to add a second binder length. So I think last time we tried was 80. Let's go with 80. So just click that little plus button there, type in 80, and you can see that the number of experimental runs, you can see that we actually have 2 different types of binder lengths that we're going to try out, see how that goes. And we're going to leave the number of binders at 2. Leave these advanced settings. You can do some pretty cool stuff with this too if you have like the knowledge of how these tooling work. But yeah, we're definitely going to leave that for now. So All right. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's any questions, and if not, we're going to submit it. Questions? I don't see any here. Let me go to the. All right. Oh, okay. Wait. Which one are they collaborative? Oh, thank you. Interesting tool fit. Awesome. Great to hear. So I'm minimizing this guy. Sorry, my windows are a little bit overwhelming. We're back here, and we're going to hit submit to experimental runs. So I'm clicking that. And then we're immediately brought to the page where this experiment is running. So you can see that the status is new here. This is the model that we used for it. And everything's given a job ID. So that is a backlog job ID. We can go into what that means too if you want. But for now, just know that every job run in your experiment has a unique ID, as well as a CID. So this is the CID. This is a content adjusted content identifier for the experiment that you just executed. And this is the wallet address that I have. So if anyone wasn't here for the beginning of this, Akash briefly went over how we're using Privy, which is cool because it will generate a wallet for you if you don't have one yet. Or you could use your personal wallet as well to log in. So I had it generate one based on my email, and this is my wallet address now. And that's all of the work that I do on the Lab Exchange is linked to this wallet address. Sorry. So I'm gonna hit update in this top corner. We can see it's just running now. This is the name that I gave my little experiment. Your experiment we can go into one of these jobs actually. We have two, right? Because remember we used two. We used 40 and 80 for the binder length. So therefore there are two jobs. We're trying two different experiments with this. But I mean, you can imagine one where the combinatorics are really large. And you can get up to I don't know, however many runs that you could imagine basically. So that could be a very long list. But yeah, so we can see the experimental parameters that we inputted here. This is in a JSON format. And then we can explore the tool. Currently no errors. Let's update. In the top right corner, I'm clicking update. All right, it's still running. All right. No results yet. This is where our outputs will be. But
must have a lot of people submitting jobs because it looks like our compute nodes are still picking it up. I mean, one of the interesting challenges that I think DeSci will have to overcome is the scalability piece. But yeah, I think for anybody that has submitted an experiment here, just keep this tab open and just periodically press update. The compute will run on the compute nodes. I think once the queue is cleared out right now. Looks like it's a little bit clogged up at the moment.
But we do have there's no errors yet, so that's very good. It means that the experiment that we did is probably chugging along. We'll probably be okay. We'll see. But for now, what we can do is we can download the input that we use. So that is that PDCU power1 .pdb. A .pdb file is a protein file, generally speaking. So I'm just going to click on that. Oops. And there we go. It downloaded for me. So we could do a few things while we wait. First, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. Do we have any questions on here? Oh, here we go. Sorry. I totally missed these. Oh, yeah, visualization. Cool. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So here we go. We're here. We downloaded this guy. So I just clicked on it, opened a new tab, and it downloaded for me. If you guys, again, to show you where we are, we went from the experiment that we just did, and we clicked on one of the job IDs. And then I looked at my input, and I downloaded it just by clicking on it. While we wait, I'm going to ask everyone to go to molstar.org. So that is molstar.org. Let's go there initially. And then we can open Molstar Viewer. In the near future, we'll actually have a little integration in this app for this, which is kind of exciting. And I'm going to go, oh, look, this is my downloaded guy. So this is the input that I gave in. And I'm going to pull it directly into the window here. It's just loop like that. And there we go. This is the protein that we're using today. You can see it. Very cute little orange and green guy. simple. Some little curly bits here. You can play with this. I don't know. Poke around a little bit. This viewer has some cool features. Once we have the output, we're going to put it in here as well. And we'll be able to see how close it comes to the protein. Sorry, I'm like trying to reduce this into simplicity. How it interacts with the protein, let's say that. So let's check back on this. How we're doing, Akash? Any updates?
I think the queue is still running. However, I can send you also a link of a completed job that could be useful too.
So I do have a completed job here. So this one is completed. This is what it will look like when it's complete. It's going to take a few minutes. I mean, we're doing some pretty intense computation, and we're all doing it at once. Sorry. But here we go. This is a completed one. We did this, I think it was like yesterday or something. Once it starts running, once the queue is like cleared up a bit, we'll be able to like actually follow along with the logs, which is quite helpful if you're used to just seeing like a command line interface in order to interact with your tools and the protein outputs, etc. So if you know what this means, it is helpful. Otherwise, we can just scroll past it. And here for this one, we can see that we had this input. I'm just going to download that input. And we are given a bunch of outputs here. So these are various designs that were outputted by the experiment that we executed. A lot of them, actually. What I'm looking for right now, and this is kind of like a standard thing in computational biology, is default best PDB. So best is kind of going to be the one where it's like, this was the best one. I can go into details. Well, actually, I can't go into details about why that is, but it's
various metrics for binding that the container uses, BanklessDeSci uses. This is like the generative best binder that was created based off of the protein that we were given. So I think, Lily, if you download that default best one,
yep,
you can throw that into Molestar.
Yeah, we're going to open up the viewer. So here we're going to do the same thing as what we just did. I'm going to take, this is my input. So slightly different looking protein, but same idea conceptually. This is the protein I put in. And then here's my output default best. I'm going to put this into Olariu as well. And look at that. This is what was designed to interact with my protein. Very interesting. This was given a number of different parameters. This is like what was generated using these tooling. So if you're not a computational biologist, you might just be looking at this and being like, cool, squiggles, which is fair. You do need pretty much at least an undergrad, and definitely a master's would be helpful for this to actually get any useful information of this. But what I can tell you is it's really cool that we were able to do this using decentralized compute, decentralized storage, completely open protocol, and anyone can replicate these experiments as well. So let's check back just one more time to see. I want to like ask if anyone is able to like how the queue is going, because I know I'm pretty far behind in it. But I want to see if there's any questions. Oh, there's a YouTube channel question. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a minute. This is me. Hello. It's a really big picture of my face. Yeah, I think that really like the exciting part of this for someone who isn't a computational biologist is knowing that this tooling that is first of all like oftentimes very hard for scientists to share between each other, even because even just like getting it set up and installed is quite complex. Files that would have to be shared in various methods, collaborations that would maybe not happen, are all going to be quite easily enabled by this tool that is just starting to materialize into something quite usable. So I'm quite excited about that. I think, Akash, is there anything else you want to share?
Nothing that comes to mind right now. I guess this is the first time that we were like publicly showcasing this. It's a sneak preview. We'll definitely have like a larger, more fanfare announcement for this application. But for those of you who are lucky to see it, feel free to hop in. Once again, it's app.prod.lambda.xyz. And yeah, if you end up designing any like protein binders, let us know. Tweet at us what you've come up with, because I think this is going to be the future again of how R&D works.
I totally agree. And if you do have any feedback or any questions, or just want to chat in general about this stuff, feel free to send me an email. I'm also on Telegram at LilyHG. So that's the same as my username right now. Actually, I'll type that out as well. Here we go. LilyHG on Telegram as well. Yeah, reach out. We're really excited about this, and really excited about how in the future it's going to continue to grow. We have some really big plans for it. So yeah, and if you have some computational biology tooling that you are interested in either putting on the Lab Exchange, or you think that it should be there, I would also love to hear your feedback on that as well. My Twitter handle is the same as my Telegram as well. Yeah. And I guess I'll just say, like, any questions, like, open that up one more time. And if not, I'll pass it on to Valerio. Sorry. Boop. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Explain Me Like I'm 5. We're working on that. That's Elijah says, you'll have to give me the Explain Me Like I'm 5. I think that's one of the hardest parts of science communication for sure. Is reducing it to the basics for a 20-minute to 30-minute talk.
Hey, very interesting what you were talking about, and thanks also for the opportunity to be here. I don't have that much time. I will keep it very, very short, and whoever is interested can reach out to me. So I will share my screen. I have here a slide deck I used for another conference as well. So don't mind the Ethereum Block Summit on the top right. Yeah, so what I'm working on and what I'm doing, first of all, as an intro, my name is Valerio. I'm the founder of Turtle Shell. We are doing tooling around circuit breakers and EIP 7265. And I'm also one of the co-authors of EIP 7265, which actually should be an ERC, but that's still in the process. And what it is and what it can do for crypto, and why it is also very relevant for the DeSci community, I will quickly explain. So first of all, what we are suffering, obviously, as a big problem in crypto is exploits, and how that could have been prevented is with circuit breakers, because current methods look like that protocols usually do an internal code review, do audits, and when you go in production, the only thing you can really do is doing bug bounties. But after smart contract is deployed, you really just have your fingers crossed and hope nothing happens. And this brings us to the IP7265, which is a token standard, or which is a smart contract. It's a smart contract interface that we try to standardize of how circuit breakers should be implemented inside smart contracts to prevent unintended token outflow. For those of you who maybe heard of circuit breakers, that might be a little bit easier. For those of you who not, the initial analogy comes from electrical engineering, but circuit breakers also is a term from traditional finance. And circuit breakers are a regulatory instrument that are since 1988 mandatory by the SEC on every stock exchange. And what it does is basically it allows you to, or like how it works with smart contracts, it allows you to track a given parameter, which can be, for example, liquidity inflow or liquidity outflow, and create a threshold for that. And once this threshold is passed, the smart contract would not operate, and you have different opportunities on what you want to do. It's called settlement modules on what you want to do once it's triggered, and that would be, for example, rejecting transactions. This is how it would look like, and how it works. It basically tracks over a given tick length, so which is a time period, this parameter. And what gets then very interesting to DeSci is how do you model those parameters? Because what is important here is modeling out parameters that, because you can track basically any arbitrary number, but how do you define this arbitrary number, this parameter, into something that would be representative of an economic exploit? And there I would really like to encourage the DeSci community to get on board and get in to the modeling. That's also why I really would love to have here some exposure. And what it allows as well is you can mathematically determine the maximum economic exploit, the maximum economic impact of an exploit. Because when you have circuit breakers implemented in a smart contract, you know under which circumstances will operate and under which not. And yeah, this is basically it. I really have to jump in 3 minutes on another call, so I don't have much more time here. But I hope I could give you a brief summary of what circuit breakers are and how they work. And if you have any questions or you're interested, please reach out to me and send me an email, valerio@turtleshell.xyz, or you will find me otherwise, Valerio_Eve on Twitter. Would really love to, hear back from you. Thanks again for having me here. I don't know how this works now with passing on to someone else, but the moderator can take over. Thanks a lot.
All right. Hey, can you all hear me, see me? Hope so. Let me check. I think it's all right. Yeah, good to be here. I will share my screen in a second, and we will just jump right in. So for today, I prepared a little workshop for us with a focus on open science, marketplaces, and DeSci tooling, and how this can go hand in hand. So all right. I hope I can share my screen now. So it's all right. So yeah, let's jump right in. I think time is short. Welcome everybody. Today, I prepared small presentation for us, 50 minutes, running through everything related to modeling open science marketplaces and how this looks like and what does it mean. And then also like the DeSci tooling landscape, what functionalities we see right now in the whole ecosystem, what people are building out, and also how this can go hand in hand and why this is important right now. In the end, I'm looking to bring everyone in here to conceptualize his or her own open science marketplace and think about the modularity aspect. So how can we fill the gaps in these molds and these frameworks, and fill it with the tools that all these amazing people are building out right now. So quick introduction to open science marketplaces, and also like what I'm mainly working on, then DeSci tooling, and then rest of the time workshop activity. If we have people who want to contribute and mold this out, and then maybe, make a 2-minute pitch event, but I'm not sure if the tech is enabling this today. So in the best case, we can enable the creation of as many open science marketplaces as possible to scale the adoption of open science ASAP. And for sure enable also like tech transfer globally, also in the global south, so that more and more people can contribute to the academic world and build out their fortunes, hopefully out of this, to feed their families, to accelerate scientific progress, and create good for humanity to unfold. So the thing is, while tech tools, as we see it in DeSci, enable a lot of functionality and the underlying infrastructure for individuals, for users to achieve this. Marketplace models, as one type of business models, enable profitability, so additional revenue streams, how independent projects and very, very early stage projects can expand their runway and also find a way, again, how to give back to their communities if we have, for example, a DAO, and also play around with different ways of monetization and additional functionalities. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction to who I am. So my name is Manuel Olariu. Nice to meet you. I worked for the last couple of years on my own venture called Deep Venture IO, where it was all about putting patents from the space industry on chain and enabling communities to license them out. Then I was also involved in a DAO called MoonDAO, where I was mainly involved in everything related to DeSci. I launched a decentralized science journal with MoonDAO in collaboration with DeSci Labs. I was also one of the persons behind the last DeSci round on Gitcoin, on being like a double agent, not only allocating the first sponsorship from MoonDAO to DeSci, but also working closely with Gitcoin for the screening process of all these promising projects building out tools for science. Out of this, there were different community-run initiatives emerging. One of them is called DeSci-QF, where individual community leaders in decentralized science independently approached Boris, the previous DeSci lead at Gitcoin, and me to start the next round. Also, there is another initiative called DSpace-QF, where it's also this bottom-up approach to use Gitcoin for allocating resources, financial resources, in a more democratic way to early stage research projects in space science and beyond. My main work right now is in collaboration with Copernic Space, the biggest Web3 marketplace for space assets and ventures. And I'm the one responsible for mainly everything related to research assets, ranging from academic papers to IP to experiments and so on. So I'm going to kickstart it with a little bit about Copernic Space as well. So in the best case, with Copernic Space Research, we can enable this global marketplace for any form of research assets in space, ranging from, again, research data, scientific experiments, academic papers, set imagery is currently live, and also more open science and open hardware licenses. This is how it looks like right now. So people can list their asset, and then on the other hand, we have the buyer side who can buy this fractionalized assets. Right now, we also have an active moon sale. So we are actually sending a payload to the moon. And I'm not saying this like a weird term, like we're sending this to the moon. Also, we're actually sending this to the lunar surface, selling this to brands, to companies, to individuals who want to have something in the digital form on the lunar surface. And yeah, for sure, if you're interested, feel free to reach out. Once in a lifetime opportunity for you to get involved. But why is this whole open science marketplace topic and DeSci tooling, why it's important? So actually, we have the year of open science. The biggest research institutions of our time announced this. NASA and CERN worked like maniacs finding for the next big thing, looking for the next big thing in open science, and they were actually advocating and looking for an open science marketplace in the so-called NASA Space Apps Challenge this year, where we also sent in an application with Copernic Space Research. We were one of the global nominees in this hackathon for building this out with NASA. And out of this, we had different opportunities also joining working groups, working on the cutting edge of policy, what's happening right now in open science with NASA when it comes to sustainable open source software, incentive mechanisms, economic models that we can kind of spin around this whole topic of making academic work more accessible to the masses. And obviously this is highly aligned with what we already do for years now. So that's the reason why it's important right now to step up and build out your own open science marketplace. So if you want to learn more, feel free to reach me. We have a lot of stuff going on right now on the commercial side of Copernic Space with payload, satellite imagery. Also on the research side, planning like different onboarding campaigns for big universities, academic institutions, and stuff like that to enable more citizen and open science globally. So happy to collaborate. So why open science marketplaces, and what does it look like in reality? So typically on open science marketplaces, we have like two sides. It's a marketplace. We have the open science creator side or the contributor side. We also have like the buyer and the seller side, as some people might remember when it comes to traditional commercial marketplace like Amazon or so on. And then one point which makes marketplaces kind of unique is also like the utility. So why are companies and individuals and developers and all the people all around the globe building out open science marketplaces, either for profit, which is kind of outdated. Money is good, but it's also pretty lame if it's the only thing we do. So most people decide to be intrinsically motivated and go for progress. Technological progress, scientific progress, spin-outs, working closely with policymakers, decision makers in universities to make this a reality and onboard them step by step onto all the fast change that we can see in decentralized science right now. So typically, the stakeholders in these form of molds are, on the one hand, again, the creators, the sellers, like of intellectual property or any form of research assets, like publishers and universities. And on the other side, we also have a lot of individuals, a lot of people on the ground doing the actual work who want to be incentivized and to participate in this progress. So some research assets that I want to highlight are ranging from, again, patents to satellite imagery to also impact certificates, which is a pretty important thing, not only to flip IP or further increase the progress that we see in academia, but actually have something tangible at our fingertips where we can say this actually created an impact, a positive impact, either on the social realm or on the monetary realm, on the environmental realm, because these are like the biggest challenges of our time that we need to overcome to get things right now. So why DeSci tooling? I mean, we have the marketplace on the one hand and the DeSci tooling on the other hand, which is hopefully filling out some gaps. In DeSci tools, most of the time we have like a very specific application, either in the design of this tool, based on the functionality, on the asset that they publish, and also like on the benefits, which is like the creation, the benefit creation on the ground for the people. And then we have like very specific use cases like niches, industry applications, and also, for example, as we see it like right now, most dominantly, either like purely meta science and DeSci applications or bio applications, and right now pretty much on the rise, also space industry applications. So in a nutshell, I mapped out like eight different paths for DeSci tools to unfold. We have thousands of people building out different variations of these modules, I call them, and different tools. In a nutshell, it's mainly about also like authentication mechanisms, access mechanisms to these research assets, the submission. So how do we want to screen them? to the storage mechanisms. A lot of people use the underlying IPFS, peer review, publication incentives that, we can also spin around this whole peer review process. And then it's also about on a very broad scale, when it comes to IP offices and stuff like that, for sure, the discovery, the convergence, the overlap, and what's next for academia and for the tech to unfold. So beside like IP management and governance with DAOs, there are also like a big path, again, when it comes to incentivizing people on the ground. And this is personally what I think can be solved with the root cause why blockchain is here, building an alternative monetary framework for the world. So if we compare like open science marketplaces, DeSci tooling, we see like obvious pros on the side of the open science marketplaces. Like you have a large audience, you can list anything related on your positioning on this marketplace, and you can be fast when it comes to monetizing because you have the underlying tech, and it just depends on what the market is telling you how fast you can run. On the other hand, open science marketplaces suffer when it comes to the quality of the assets that they want to list or we want to list on the marketplace, and it's also like always the chicken and egg problem. So when is the point reached of a so-called product market fit or a critical mass so that this whole framework can run on its own? Then we also have like DeSci tooling pros and cons. DeSci tools are a great cause when it comes to the functionality. We are definitely 100% solving bottlenecks in academia, but it's always this topic of scalability. We heard it before in some other presentation. DeSci tools are great, period. But who will use this? And when investors ask, how do you want to make money? It's very sad, but this is how it's running most of the time right now. And this is, by the way, also the reason why I'm a big fan of everything that is going on in the DAO space right now and in the public goods funding space as well. So we can start the workshop phase if you want to conceptualize a marketplace variation that suits your current project, your current business, or you also want to ideate around how this can look like in reality. If you want to cooperate with others and talk with us and pitch your ideas and find collaboration partners on the stage, for sure, if the live stream is enabling this, feel free to check out the link that I will show you in a second. In a nutshell, it's about defining the user needs, the utility as I described it before, the variations in applications and functionality that are needed on this open science marketplace model. If we want to have added functionality when it comes to DeSci tools, as we heard it before, and then for sure like your niche, your industry application. I prepared a lot when it comes to the preparation behind, like different examples of different tool providers and explanations how people use them right now, so that you do not need to start from scratch. And this is how you can orient on this. So finding roads, describing this, also thinking about the internal drivers, motivation points, and different aspects of the tools that you want to see on this marketplace to unfold. So check out this link to the Miro board. I will also post this. Give me a second. We'll also copy and paste this into the YouTube channel. Let me see. Yeah. All right. And are there any questions? So I'm looking. Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. So I'm gonna wait for a couple of more minutes. The link is here in the YouTube channel, and right now here, yeah, Rod is here. Hi, Rod. Good to see you, man. So feel free to jump right into this Miro board. As you can see, I'm gonna explain a little bit. As you can see, here are like the different asset types. You can list different stakeholders where you have a starting point, thinking about further going into detail. You have like a step-by-step guide, I would say, what's most important in filling out this marketplace models. And then for sure, like the different variation when it comes to the current DeSci tools, with explanations, with the need descriptions, user stories, and so on. So you do not need to start from scratch. If you have something where you want to work on, check out these modules, start the process here. Here are a lot of boards with explanations how you can answer these questions, ranging again from user to utility to the real world application, use cases. And then most important thing, because we do not need to overstretch this, because most of the time, if you start out as an early stage DeSci project, just choose your top 2 priorities when it comes to tooling. So check it out. And yeah, happy to see you filling this out. We can take maybe 10 minutes for this if we have enough time. And other than that, yeah, thanks for your time and thanks for listening. And check out the Miro board, read through the modules, read through the conceptualizing of these open science marketplaces, and yeah, work on this Miro board. I will turn my camera off for the next 10 minutes. Yeah, but thank you. All right, I will quickly double check if anybody's working on this right now. Let me see. I see. Wow, it's filling up. Okay, great. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Now you can see my PFP. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. You learned something out of this. Yeah, and in the meantime, see you soon. Space is accessible to all. Go for it. Thanks.
All right, am I live? Perfect. Let me just share my screen. Lots of amazing talks, guys. This one's going. I'll try to make it fun. All right, so I'm going to be talking about the Fermi method. How is this related to DeSci? Well, it's less related to decentralization and more related to science in a sense. Why is this important? So today I'm going to give you three things. I'm going to give you a story, a method, and we are going to do a cool workshop together. What's the point of this talk? The point of this discussion is so that you start with start to get a feel for numbers. I want you to start from math is hard because math was hard for me when I started off, and then I sort of discovered why school was kind of wrong in how it taught me math, and I discovered this through the Fermi method, and I sort of double clicked on this idea and started exploring it, and I want to share what I found out with you guys, so that hopefully you learn how to get a feel for numbers. And it's essentially about how to make decisions in an uncertain world, and this is really helpful when dealing with decentralized finance, just anything in general. So yeah, I go by 10K on the internet. I am just a science bro. I did aerospace engineering. I work as a materials engineer in real life, and I'm building this game called Fermi.fun to teach Fermi estimation. And I also host a podcast called Block Builds. So the story about Enrico Fermi. I don't know if you guys know who Enrico Fermi is. He was a physicist. He was part of the Manhattan Project. He was one of the guys who built the atomic bomb. And there's this one cool story about Fermi. He was set to stand a few kilometers away during the Trinity test. And when the bomb went off, Fermi took tiny bits of paper and he dropped them on the ground. And he just observed how slowly they fell before the bomb went off and during the blast wave. And then the difference in time that it sort of took for these pieces of paper to fall on the ground, he used that to calculate estimate the size of the bomb. He guesstimated it to be around 10 kilotons of TNT or something, and it turned out to be around 50 kilotons of TNT. So that's how powerful guesstimates can be. And guesstimates also give you ideas when you start applying these techniques to whatever you're working on. It could be protein folding, it could be DeFi, it could be yeah, pretty much any problem you can apply these skills to. So that was the story. What's an example of a Fermi problem? Here's a really good example that you deal with in DeFi. How many transactions are made on the Ethereum blockchain in Brazil compared to the transactions made in America? Now, this problem, if you look at it, sounds quite daunting to begin with, but it can be solved through you can get a rough order of magnitude estimate through Fermi estimation. And I'm going to give you the method, and then you can sort of try to solve this problem on your own and share your answers. So this is the method, right? The first thing we're taught in school is to have accurate answers. You need really high accuracy, but turns out in the real world, well, you don't really need accuracy. You can have you can compromise accuracy for speed. So how do you do that? You take any big problem, you break it down into chunks, you throw in some approximate numbers, you bound the problem, and then you do a reality check. So let's do a quick workshop to try and apply this. I think that's the best way to sort of get an idea of how Fermi estimation works. So I want you guys to pick one of these problems, and we're gonna solve it together in 5 minutes because that's the time we have. I don't have access to the chat, so I'm just gonna check if someone can help me out with that. Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. I just need like if Chad has chosen one of the problems that I've been sort of sharing, one of these four problems. I just need to know which one they want to solve. Yeah, I don't see anyone pick a problem, so I'm just gonna pick one. Uh, so let's try to do the first one. If all of the world decides to use one blockchain to settle transactions, what would the world TPS be? So, so first we gotta break that problem down. How would you sort of break this problem down? So, in order to break this down, what are some of the things we need to know? We need to know the world population. We need to know the transactions per second of each person on planet Earth, right? So, I'd break this down as into two parts: world population and transactions per person. Now you can sort of you can break this further down into population of your country. If you don't know the world population, it's about 8 billion. But let's say you don't know the world population, you can just break it down into population of America times like rough approximation of how many countries are there, just like America. So since we know it's like 8 billion, and then like how many, like how do you break down transactions per person? Just look at like how many transactions you make per single day, like every day. I make about 10 to 20 transactions, not more, and the average should be somewhere around there. So once you break it down like that, you throw in some numbers. So we already know like the world population, and we know like we can have like this as, let's say, 10 billion, just to get the order of magnitude. And let's say this is around 10, right? So we put in some numbers, and then we can bound the problem. So the world population is not exactly 10 billion, it's 8 billion, right? So you can have like a max and a min. Let's say the minimum population is like 1 billion, and then the transaction can be like 1 to 100. Some people transact more. So uh, even on this one, you can further refine it. Like you know that not everyone's going to hit transact at the same time, right? So some people are active during their day doing transactions, and some people are sleeping. So it's almost like a Mexican wave across the world when someone does a transaction. So it's, these numbers are can be divided depending on the latitude and longitude. But let's just say ideally these are the numbers. uh, we just like multiply this, right? Like 1 billion times 10, that's 10 billion transactions per second. That's, let's say, the minimum value is like 10 billion transactions TPS, and then the maximum is 100 billion TPS, which is not the case. It's the theoretical maximum. Now if you're designing a blockchain, you should be able to sort of use these numbers and, like, figure out what's possible and what's not. Let's say you're using Solana and it has a TPS of like 4,000, you should be able to tell how many countries can sort of make one transaction. Just knowing that number times the number of nodes there are, of course. So then you do a reality check. How do you do that? You just go to Google and try to get some answers, or you apply the same technique but from a different approach, and then try to validate your answer. But yeah, that's the Fermi method for you. Like, I've also collected some resources. If you guys want to check out more Fermi resources, you can visit these links. Some of them are books, some of them are videos, and some of them are blog posts. And if you want to access the app Fermi.fun that I've built to practice these problems, you can just DM me on Twitter, and then I'll give you access to the app. You can scan this QR code for that. And you can also download this presentation from Gumroad. I'm going to share the link. I'm going to let this be for a few seconds so that you can scan and take a picture. And this is the link to this presentation. All right, so that was it. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. Just DM me with any questions you have, and I can sort of give you access to resources or whatever help you need around this. Thanks so much, guys.